Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Racing with Ryan podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Stevens. Got a very exciting show for you here today as we got some good racing in this past weekend over at the new Smyrna Speedway as we got the Shark Bite Pro Late Model 60 in the books, and it was probably the best Pro Late Model race of the regular season. So our number one division definitely showed out and showed up and put on a hell of a show for the fans. And it came down to the last couple laps between a couple of really good, young, up-and-coming drivers. So I think the future of the Pro Late Models is very well, and I'm looking forward to the next race. So we're going to recap all of that and a whole lot more on this week's show. After we recap New Smyrna, we'll hop over to the racing action on the Nascar side of things over at Atlanta and Lime Rock Park. And, hey, it was a pretty good weekend for racing all the way around. So we will cover it all on the show. Thank you all for joining us. Before we get into the big recap from New Smyrna, again, I want to thank our sponsors here, including our friends over at Paramount Medical Billing. Good to see their car back in action with Hank Baker Jr. In the 602 Modifieds this past weekend. Plus, we thank Do All Lawn and Tree, the Splish and Splash swim program. We also thank F&F Racing. We missed Aaron Foy this weekend for sure. He was stuck on a job and could not get to the track. And then we also thank Ken Copley for his support, as well as the E-Mods were in action for another actually a pretty tame race, but a good race nonetheless. So getting into the thick of things here at New Smyrna, 13 cars were on the property. Man, it could have been 15, 16. Tim Sozio was on vacation. Aaron Foy, like I said, he was stuck out of town at work. Hey, you gotta be able to pay those bills, right? And then the Nick Snyder car was not in attendance, even though I was told he was going to be there. So there's one that we definitely thought was going to be there that wasn't, and a couple that couldn't be there. But, man, you throw those cars on the grid. We got 16 cars. It's pretty good for a quote-unquote weekly show. But the Pro Late Models, man, they've been solid all season long, and we had some surprises in the field, and it was a really fun night at the races. So let's get on into it. Qualifying. No real surprise here, but it would be Brad May that would take the victory. He would set fast time. There would be an invert of 6. And really, we didn't see much of Brad May come race time. I think that was one of the bigger surprises of the day. Race got off to a pretty tame start. Dylan Williams would lead the opening circuits in the Black 01 machine. And the first major incident of the day, really the kind of the biggest one of the day, Michael Goddard in the 99 car was up near the front, running very well, and then you could just see that car started to go away. And I wasn't sure if it was handling or what, but it just really started to lose momentum. And, before I could really even say it, in my mind, I'm like, I wonder if something's wrong with that car. And lo and behold, coming off turn number 4, handful of laps into the race, the motor would expire, and he would blow up in a big way down the front straightaway, pretty much oil the track down from turn 4 to turns 1 and 2, and then kind of, along the apron of the back straightaway all the way back around. So that one took a lot of cleanup. But I think the biggest issue with this is the caution definitely took a minute to come out, a little bit longer than it should have. Sometimes we'll see a car slow, and if it doesn't produce any smoke, we watch and see if there's, any signs of anything being on the track. But to me, that was pretty clear and obvious. And even if it's just smoke, not putting anything down on the racetrack, maybe just, oil burning off the headers or something. Anytime there's a big plume of smoke like that, I think it's fair to throw the caution immediately in the interest of safety. Whether there is or isn't anything on the racetrack, I think that should be an immediate caution because nobody's going to question why you threw the caution there, right? It's pretty obvious that that's a situation that calls for a yellow flag, whatever the reason may be, if there's fluid or not. So I think the caution took a little bit too long. I was able to watch the car go all the way down into turn 1 and put my hands up like, why are we still green? And then as all that's going on, we did have 2 separate incidents, and I saw the 21 Scott Arnund go for a spin. I did not see Allie Owens' misfortune in turn 1. She would nose into the outside wall and ruin her day. Her big return did not go as planned. They had trouble pretty much in practice all day. Didn't even make the second practice, and then pulled out of impound, started last, finished last. Tough break for Allie, who had a lot of people in the booth next to us rooting her on. Hopefully that's not the end for Allie Owens, but definitely disappointing not re-debut, that's the wrong word, but return. So definitely caution could have come out a little bit quicker on that one. It didn't, and that's just the way it goes sometimes, unfortunately. That was the biggest incident of the day. The rest of the race was very entertaining, though. It quickly became a race between Palmer Haag and Cody Brinson. Palmer was leading, but on a restart, Cody Brinson would actually take the lead away. We'd have another spin, and we'd have the final restart, and Palmer Haag would get the lead back, and he would be in control of the race. But as the race was winding down, there was a really good battle between Eugene Tuminello and Logan Mizuraka for the 7th or 8th spot. And those two would get together a couple of times, and then here come the leaders. And Palmer Haag got kind of boxed in as they were battling for position, double file as the leaders were approaching. Cody Brinson made a move and, probably could have went 2-3 wide, made a dive bomb move in turn 3, maybe got the lead back, maybe wrecked both he and Palmer. They raced each other really, really hard through the traffic, and it was very entertaining. But ultimately, a lot of respect to Cody Brinson on this one, going for his first New Smyrna win. Decided to err on the side of caution. And Palmer Haag was able to hold on to the lead through this wild sequence and pick up his 2nd consecutive win. So Haag wins the Shark Bite Pro Late Model 60. Cody Brinson with a career-best second-place run. And Chad Rutherford, man, I'm just glad to see the luck going his way. He's had a fast race car, and he's finally starting to get it to the finish here. He would finish 3rd. Another good run for him. We mentioned Brad May. He was just not really a factor in the race. He started 6th, finished 4th, rather pedestrian day for Brad May. It's very rare in a race like this that he does not end up on the podium. Reed Finney, though, first career start in a pro late here at New Smyrna for the driver out of Merritt Island, and he would score a top 5 finish. So a good debut for the next generation of Finney. Dylan Williams led early, finished in 6th. Chris Wharton made the trip from Alabama, who's the only out-of-town driver in the field this week, or out-of-state driver, I should say. He would have a bout with the choose zone and kind of get lose his track position. He was right up in the 5th to 7th spot most of the race anyway, so we got back to 7th. We talked about Logan Mizuraka and Eugene Tuminello, who would battle for the 8th spot there. Logan Mizuraka would win that battle and finish 8th. Logan had a pretty fun pre-race interview. Man, I'll tell you, the time was limited by the time I got down there. I only got to interview a few drivers, but she stole the spotlight for sure. Did a good job hyping up the crowd, took the mic, went and hopped on the retaining pit wall, and got everybody hyped up, ready to go for the race, so that was fun. She would finish 8th, like I said. Eugene Tuminello 9th. Stephen Redditt would round out your top 10. There would be Scott Arnone, Michael Goddard, and Allie Owens rounding out the field. And a really good Pro Late Model race. I really enjoyed watching this one. Moving down the list here, the Sportsman would end the program. We would have 9, so that's, helping the average out a little bit, as we've been between like 6 and 10 much of the season. Good race here to wrap it all up. Chase Simons would start on the pole, and he and Donovan Ponder would have, they would have quite the race up front. Ponder, who clearly had the better car, Simons was making it wide, giving Ponder very little space down on the inside. But it was pretty clear that if Donovan Ponder got by, that he was going to set sail and go for the win. And that's pretty much what happened. He would get by Simons with a handful of laps to go, and the championship later would parlay that into another feature win here. Chase Simons would settle for a career-best second-place finish, and George Alexander making his return for the first time since March, finished up on the podium, and we had a pretty fun interview there at the end of the night. Just kind of being silly a little bit, but good to see George play along. He's a really good dude, and we hijacked his picture and finished off the night, so that was fun. Sean Fitzgerald, what a day for Sean Fitzgerald. This is a driver who has improved greatly this season. Started to really kind of go the right direction towards the end of last year, would have some bouts with the wall, some mechanical troubles, but this year it's really all starting to come together. This was, in my opinion, his most competitive event. Ran really well in the heat race, and then ultimately finished 4th in the feature. Just a straight-up 4th-place finish. He's at a podium here and there, and maybe those were lesser car count nights, or the competition fell out, or what have you. And I never take a finish like that away from a driver. They went out, they earned it, they got to where they needed to be. But this was a race where Sean Fitzgerald proved that he belongs. So I really like to see the improvement out of him. I like that it's going in the right direction for him. He was 4th. 5th was Dylan LeBeau. Andy Nichols was 6th. 7th was Jason Bartram. It was nice to see Jason make the trip down. The team came with a couple Crown Vics in the Sportsman. More on that in a minute. Richard Fiore Jr. was 8th, and Earl Beckner debuted a new car, only ran a couple laps trying to shake that thing down, but finished in the 9th spot. E-Mods were in attendance, and I'm just now seeing that our second-place man was DQ'd. So this was a really clean race. We've had a couple of wild ones with the E-Mods, but this one was pretty straightforward. Carson May would battle up to the lead as he would take it away from Sean Senakosov with about 10 laps to go, and Carson May, the point leader, would hang on to get the victory. Dylan Sale would actually come home in second, and then Bubba Van Devender, who started last in the field as our most recent winner, would only be able to get up to 4th at the checkered and 3rd after the tech shed. Dalton Simons was 4th. 5th was Max Wheeler. Bruce Gayton was 6th. Bruce Gayton. Yeah, that's Bruce. Jonathan Menninga was 7th. Dale Howard 8th, and Bruce Packer 9th. Sean Senakosov, who came home with a runner-up finish, apparently was disqualified. I did not hear the reason why. I'm actually just finding out about it doing the recap here. So tough break for him. It was fun to have them come down. Stuff like this, though, I doubt we'll see that car back. People will come from out of town and they get DQ'd. And listen, you got to be right when you get here. But it usually means they're not coming back. E-Mod's pretty straightforward. The Bomber Bs, though, pretty good turnout. We had 14 cars in attendance. And it was a good race for these guys, especially after the wreck fest that they had a couple of weeks ago that was kind of like, what are we doing? These guys got their act together. Nice, clean 20-lap race and great battle between Chris Rummel and Zach Curtis. There was some that might think those guys were playing with each other, including the cameraman, Mr. Tom from Speedway Video. I think initially he thought what I was thinking. I'm like, these guys are just toying with the field. They're racing each other. They're buddies. They're just playing around. But it became kind of clear to me with a handful of laps to go that maybe that wasn't the case. Zach Curtis led for a while. Chris Rummel put the pressure on him. He swapped the lead a couple of times. And you can see with about 5 to go, maybe 6 to go, Chris Rummel got the advantage on Zach Curtis and started to pull away a little bit. So I think maybe they were putting on a show there for a minute or two. But I think when it came down to the nitty-gritty and they really got on it, Chris Rummel got the best of Zach Curtis in the black 63. And Curtis still trying to work the kinks out of this new car. As you heard in his interview, he's building these cars, trying to get them dialed in for the bigger money races that Crown Vics are starting to get. So, which is honestly, guys, I get it. Everybody wants that big payday, but man, that's how you kill a weekly racing division. We take these, what are supposed to, and I don't mean this with any disrespect. We need support classes. Support classes are the bread and butter of a speedway. They're sometimes the most exciting divisions, and we need to keep them built up. But we start doing these big money pure stock races, these big money Crown Vic races, and there's nothing wrong with having a special event here and there. But the problem is all these guys build these crazy contraptions and spend buco money on these parts to go chase, a couple $1,000s, and they'll just sit out the weekly stuff, which, it pays chicken thighs to the actual chicken. But we've got to have some divisions that are just for local racing. Once you start turning everything into a series, trucks, we're going to have 8 truck series again next year. We're going to have, a Crown Vic series. And if you start kind of butchering your weekly stuff, and it's not sustainable. $1,000 win race, $2,000 to win race is great for the winner, which ends up usually being the same handful of people. And then all these other guys are sitting out the weekly show and they're going to these big money races and they're still losing out and missing out on supporting the weekly program. Listen, I love it when people I know go out there and have success and do the racing thing to the best of their abilities, and kudos to them. I have so much respect for so many of these guys. But man, I just sometimes it sounds like I combat some of the big stuff. As fun as a big show is, the weekly stuff is how a lot of us, do what we do. And we love to be at these places weekly. And we've got, Auburndale needs to sustain weekly classes. Citrus needs to sustain weekly classes. Showtime, New Smyrna. When it becomes all big race mentality, it kills the lower divisions. And I'm not saying everything, but, you'll hear from a guy and they're like, oh, yeah, we're saving it for this race. Well, that race is like 6 weeks away. Well, we don't want to wreck our stuff. Why have a race car? If you're just going to sit around on it, why have a race car? It's so much easier to just, I don't know. I know I sound like the guy, oh, you just say that because you work weekly at a track. Well, yeah. So I want it to be sustainable, guys. So that's where I'm coming from. But anyways, a great race for the Stephen Smith Incorporated Bomber Bees. Chris Rummel, your winner. Zach Curtis, second. Dustin Higdon was third. Justin Phillips would come home in fourth. Good to see Jason Scrover back for the first time in a while, running part-time this year, but he would finish in the fifth spot. Tim Nicholas was sixth, seventh for Alan Smith. Kenny Roth was eighth. Randy Straley, ninth. Steve Darling. Good to see Steve Darling. First time that he has raced anything on the big track here at New Smyrna. Took the Crown Vic out and got a respectable 10th place finish out of it. And sounds like he had a bunch of fun. So at least racing. Nobody has fun spending the money, but he had a good time racing on the big track. Ryan Thompson made his debut. He finished 11th. 12th was Ashley Bartram. 13th was Cheyenne Woodman. And Don Brayton would round out our field. And the 602s, their results did not post. Come on, man. See, when they not took it away from me, but Shelley started putting up results instantly, and when things get forgotten. Anyways, Christopher Hatton Jr. would win the 602 modified race over the 88 of John Hatton. John Hatton had the race in hand. We would have a spin. The 19 of James Williams would go for a spin. No, somebody else went for a spin, and James Williams came in there or something. Maybe James Williams. I don't know. The 19 car spun out and got clobbered by somebody, and it was a huge wreck, and we had a restart, and John Hatton would lose the lead on the restart, and Christopher Hatton Jr. would go on to win the race. So I have to figure out why those results are probably just didn't get saved. I bet I can go fix that right now. Let me see. See if I can find the 602s. Go to race management. You guys are seeing me do homework live. Not seeing me, but hearing it. Let's go to races, 7-Eleven. Let's go to results. Now let's find out why the 602 modifieds results are not on the internet. You ready? Here we go. 602 modifieds. He'd won. Somehow did not get put in there. A feature. Did not get put in there. So, this will be one. I had the results. I'll have to go back and fix it, but this is also something that I'm going to have to get with the track about because we have incomplete work being done, and I'm not okay with that. So we'll get it fixed. It'll be up in a minute, but Christopher Hatton was your winner. I do have the paperwork. I see it over there in the corner. I'm not going to stop the recording to get up and get it. But, yeah, there you go. A little peek behind the curtain. Not good. So let me go check on the point standings assigned from the 602 modifieds, which pretty sure Christopher Hatton Jr. has that one under control. Let's go ahead and check the points after a good weekend. Hey, there was a couple of big moments. The big motor explosion from Michael Goddard and the subsequent spins and crashes there, and then the big wreck in the 602 modifieds. But other than that, clean racing. My girlfriend was headed this way, and she was out with her girls. They were playing at a friend's house, and she's like, "We're on our way finally. Sorry, we got held up playing." And she's like, "You still think they'll be racing past 10?" I'm like, "Oh, absolutely. We'll probably be here for a while after that." But the races were clicking off clean, and then I was like, I think it'll still be after 10, but things are going pretty quick. But anyway, so let's check the Pro Late Model standings after the 11th. Brad May with now just a 10-point lead. Palmer Haag closed in a little bit. I think it was 16 at the beginning. So Palmer Haag now just 10 points out of lead. Chad Rutherford only 22 points back. Very much in contention. Stephen Redditt 4th, Eugene Tuminello 5th. So the points have switched up just a little bit here. Brad May clinging to a 10-point lead. That's going to be a fun battle to follow. I think Palmer Haag now very much going to be in championship contention. Obviously, the news came down. Unfortunately, the IHRA Stock Car Series is no more for 2026 at least. Palmer Haag had committed to that series, so I'm pretty sure we'll see him running more, or at least committed to running here for the championship at this point. He's got a very good shot at it. So we'll see how that all plays out. Feel bad for Zach. Zach Miles, as you know, he's not been with me every week in the tower because he's committed to the IHRA series. But with that being done, he'll be with us more often. Obviously, he helps out. He's more of a volunteer. So when real life gets in the way, he's not able to be there. But I think we'll be hearing a lot more from him throughout the rest of the season, which will be nice. But tough break there for short track racing for sure. You want to see stuff like this sustainable, not shutting down. But the writing was on the wall with that one for sure. All right, what else raced this week? Sportsman. Donovan Ponder in control, the defending champion, defending his crown rather nicely here. He's up 21 points now on Dylan LeBeau and 24 points on Chase Simons. Andy Nichols, 38 back, and John Fitzgerald, 59 back. That's your top five there. And then E-Mods also raced. Carson May now with a 19-point advantage on Dalton Simons as he tries to win the championship. Dylan Sale third in points. Finally, a good run for him. Jonathan Menninga fourth, leading the Rookie of the Year standings, by the way. And Dale Howard in the fifth position. Max Wheeler sitting sixth. Remember, back at the beginning of the year, he had that disqualification, and that definitely has set him back a little bit in the points, but still a great season for Max. Looking at the full points, we were definitely missing some guys this weekend, including Kurt Robinson was not there. Michael Say was not in attendance. Michael Mark was not there. Wow, we haven't seen him in a while. Wonder what's going on with him. And then Ken Copley as well. So a couple of familiar faces have not been with us the last couple of weeks, unfortunately, but the E-Mod's still a very fun and strong division. Bomber Bees were also in action. Remember the 602s. We got to figure out what's going on with that. And then Bomber Bees, Tim Nicholas, your season point leader by 56 now on Randy Straley and 57 on Zach Curtis. Curtis has not run all the races, 57 back in third. Then Dustin Hayden and Larry Masters, who was not with us this past weekend, rounding out the top five in points there. It's interesting who comes and goes in these divisions. It's hard to race full-time this year, but there you go. Quick recap of what was a very fun shark bite, probably the second best shark bite we had. We had that one a few years ago that had like 20-something cars. It was just like the Rackley War cars came, Max Kai's McDonald and his guys came. We had people coming from all over the place for that race. It was just good timing, and you had the right people racing at the right time. And but this one was great. This was definitely, I remember going on vacation in 2022. It was my daughter's first birthday. We drove after the races one weekend, drove up to Vermont, got there in time to celebrate my daughter's birthday, had a couple of days, which I spent a whole day recovering. Like the next day, once we finally got there, I was so fatigued from the drive. Like I needed a day to recover. My mom was like, "You all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm tired." But anyway, then we drove. We had to get back for Saturday night in the shark bite, and we drove to my sister's on Friday, left her house at 6 a.m, and got to New Smyrna at 6 o'clock at night. It was raining a little bit, and there was 5 cars for the shark bite. And I was like, really? I drove red eye to get my butt here for 5 cars? Really? Is that what's happening? And, there's been a couple of disappointments. There's been a couple of rainouts. So just the fact that we got to race it was perfect. So just so much to enjoy. And that's what I did this week. I had my girlfriend's sons with me. The middle tower that they normally hang out in was rented out. And they sat behind the tower, and really, that you would not know that they were back there. I'm having so much fun at the racetrack. I know there's a lot of things that we can argue about. This should be better. This should be better. It all could be better. It all could. This costs too much. That costs too much. Yeah, you're right. Life in general costs too much. Going to the grocery stores, you pick up 5 or 6 things, and you're like, man, I used to be able to buy a week's worth of groceries for this. It's tough. Things are tough right now. But I've made a commitment, made a decision to go to the racetrack and have fun with what I'm doing. And there are some nights where I've turned off the microphone and turned around, management will be up there. I'm like, what are we doing? What is the point of this? I want us to put on the best show possible. I want more emphasis to be placed on certain things, and I want more effort to go into some things. But I'm just happy that we're still doing what we're able to do, because I'm up there having a blast, and I appreciate everybody who's supporting it one way or another, and everybody that comes out to contribute to making a Saturday night a good time. I do appreciate and look forward to the next one. So, fun shark bite. Congratulations to Palmer Haag. I believe he's now the man to beat in the Pro Late Models here at New Smyrna. Has he knocked Brad May off the throne? I don't know if we go that far. I don't know if we can go that far. But Palmer Haag has definitely arrived. He is the king shark after the shark bite race. And coming up this weekend, we are back at it. We do have the Mighty Modifieds back. The Florida Modifieds will be back in action as the main event. They'll be joined by the Ashley Holmes Jacks trucks in our Midsummer Mayhem event. And it really is midsummer. School starts in less than a month. That's something I'm aware of now these days. We also have the Bomber A's in action, the Bushman Bomber A's. We got the Superstocks and the Florida Southern Ground Pounders on the card as well. Should be a fun show. It all starts at 6 o'clock. Feature racing at 7:30. Get there early. Save $5 on your ticket price. As a matter of fact, I think tickets are only $15, and if you get them early, I think it's only $10. Let me see. I think they might have built that special into the internet. Let me see. My computer's very slow. That is something I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to start investing in here pretty soon because this thing is it's beyond dinosaur at this point. Let's see. Yeah, right now, if you go to our website and you buy your tickets online, you get the early bird special. Now, you pay fees because it's anything on the internet has fees. But, yeah, they got the early bird special built into the website now. It's only $10 if you buy your tickets on sale. So go check that out. Good value. Honestly, I was just talking to my friends in the racing chat, the announcer racing chat, and there's an event coming up at Auburndale, and it's a truck takeover, and general admission is $25. If we put on a weekly show for $25, everybody would lose their mind. I think $15 is probably right price for a regular weekly show. I love that we have the early bird special. I know it's harder to get out there before 6 o'clock right now because it's so darn hot. I get it. Maybe if the $5 is not worth the extra discomfort for you, and that's fair. Sometimes there is value in comfort, right? But man, I'm telling you, $10 if you get your tickets online now. Well, it's $12.38 with the fees. And I don't know if there's taxes on top of that, but hey, then you don't have to stand in line and get a ticket. So for $10, if you come to the racetrack before 6 o'clock and get your ticket, it's $10 to come see some great short track racing. We may not have the biggest car counts in the world, but man, we have some of the most fun, and sometimes we have the most drama, and sometimes the Sunday morning armchair racer talk is pretty entertaining. So come out and join us. It's gonna be a good time. I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully we will see you all out there. We are gonna now switch gears and talk about the NASCAR events from this weekend. The Pro Trucks. Look at me. I'm ready to go short track racing. The NASCAR Craftsman trucks were in Lime Rock at the road course, which I still question why we're doing that. But okay. And then we had the 2 races at Atlanta. So we're going to cover all that here in just a moment and get you up to speed on the next edition of the 16. I guess we'll check in on all the divisions and see how everybody's doing as we get closer and closer to the chase cutoff. All right, so let's start with the Truck Series over at Lime Rock Park, the road course. We did this last year, and it was one of the more boring events on the schedule, so I was surprised when it came back. But this year's was a little more chaotic, so we went from one extreme to the other. To be honest, I did watch this race just with the highlights. I did not watch the full race all the way through with the non-competitive pit stops and so much going on last weekend. I just decided not to dedicate that much time to it. So watched the highlights, but was pleasantly surprised. Plenty of action, a lot of comers and goers. You had some strategy. Had that wild caution incident with Thomas Annunziata, who won the ARCA race. Thought maybe he would have a chance to kind of sweep the weekend, if you will, but unfortunately that went up in smoke, literally. Just a lot of wild pushing and shoving, some big wrecks. But at the end of it, a surprise winner. Really thought maybe this week the surprise win would come from Atlanta, and that was not the case, as Grant Enfinger would get the win here this weekend at Lime Rock, his first win in quite some time, and we'll see what that's done for his chase playoff standing. We'll see what that's done for his hopes here when we take a look at the points here in just a little bit. But Grant Enfinger picks up the win for the NASCAR Craftsman trucks at Lime Rock. And on Saturday, we had the O'Reilly Series race. I keep calling it Xfinity. It's going to take me, I guess the older you get, the longer it takes to shake habits, right? But the O'Reilly race went down Saturday. Kind of a wreck fest. The Atlanta package for Xfinity has not always been the typical pack racing. This one did get spread out as expected, but this one had a lot of wrecks. I mean, just a lot of little dust-ups, a couple of bigger ones. I know at one point my pick, Jesse Love got swept up in a wreck. Austin Hill was swept up in a wreck. So some of the heavy hitters were out of it, and that really opened the door for a frantic finish. And, like I said, a lot of action in this one, a lot of crashes, a lot of stuff to cut through. But white flag, Brennan Poole is leading. He and Nick Sanchez going at it for the win. They would get into it on the back straightaway, and that would open the door for who else? Justin Allgaier to come through and score the win. I couldn't believe it. It went from looking like we were going to get another surprise winner on the weekend to Justin Allgaier picking up the win out of nowhere. His car was involved in one of the dust-ups a few laps earlier. It was dragging parts and pieces, yet he would come by and score the win and extends his huge point lead, which, again, we'll check on that here in just a second. So that brings us to Sunday, a cup race at Atlanta, which honestly, Atlanta's been one of the more exciting tracks as of late, right? I thought the race in the spring was very exciting. If you remember back in the spring, Tyler Reddick pulled off the win without a right front fender after he got caught up in one of the wrecks. So it was, you just kind of don't know what to expect at Atlanta. And this weekend's race was okay, I guess. As I put it to someone the other day, I think it was a good NASCAR race, but maybe not the best Atlanta race. And that's just my opinion. I know a lot of people are liking the race from this weekend, but I think we've seen better there. But I don't dislike the product either. So Sunday's race started a little after 7 o'clock. There's weather rolling through. They did not get the race to halfway before that weather got there. And this race was definitely a tale of two halves. The first part of the race before the weather came, kind of strung out, not a ton of passing. And then we had the weather delay. And the second half of the race got a little more racier as the track temperature cooled down. Obviously, it got dark, so the sun wasn't beating on the track. It wasn't quite as slick. But the race was pretty much dominated by one driver. This performance reminded me a lot of like Dale Earnhardt Jr. back in the mid-2000s when he dominated places like Daytona and Talladega. And, of course, was Ryan Blaney, who led a ton of laps. He led the first 64 laps. And that was kind of my point about the tale of two halves. The first segment of the race, really, there just was not a lot of passing. And let's see, it was the first stage. Yeah, Blaney led the entire first stage. So there was not a single lead change in the first stage, which is okay. I don't mind a race where, it's quiet and tame in the first half and then it picks up towards the end. But we see a lot of races, it seems like more action at the beginning than at the end. So I'm okay with it going this way. And let's see, they got to lap 123 before, I guess, 109. I'm trying to read this on Racing Reference. Looks like they got to lap 109 before the rain came. Had quite a long delay. They restarted the race, I don't know, was it right around 11:45, close to midnight before they restarted the race. And the race got back going, and Ryan Blaney would win stage 2. And honestly, pretty clean racing for Atlanta. Really, we didn't have the big one per se. We had a wreck that had multiple cars towards the end, which you would expect, but it wasn't like a race full of pileups. And like I said, things got a little more action-packed towards the end. But all in all, the race was dominated by Ryan Blaney. I think he led, how many laps did he lead here? He would lead 171 of 263 laps. That is a standout performance. Still 30 lead changes at the checkered flag, so they were able to mix it up a little bit. But, somebody would get by Blaney, and then no matter what, he would come back up through there and get back up to the front. So Ryan Blaney, at the end of this thing, did get the win. He did make a last lap pass on Carson Hocevar. Hocevar got out a little bit too far in front. Woo! It is storming out pretty good now. But yeah, Carson Hocevar got pushed too far out in front. Blaney was able to chase him down. Then they were 3 wide on the back straightaway coming off turn number 2. And a controversial moment of the race when Bubba Wallace swung wide off 2, tried to duck inside everybody and make a pass to lead. However, in doing so, he would go below the yellow line, and he would cross the line second, but be scored in the 29th position after the penalty. I know there's been a lot of debate on the penalty because, some are saying, well, he really didn't go down there to gain position. He didn't gain a position. But in my opinion, I think the penalty is just because he made a move off the corner. He tried to go past a couple of cars, got down below the line. He was attempting to improve his position. I think the spirit of the rule is to not use that part of the racetrack to try to make advances. Now, we've seen people get forced down there, people get loose, go down there, but in my opinion, Bubba's trying to make a move to win the race, which he should, but he did not stay in bounds while trying to make said move. So whether, in your opinion, he tried to improve his position, which I believe he did, even if he didn't technically make those passes, you could argue down the road he set himself up to be able to do that in the coming corners. So in my opinion, the penalty is just, and Bubba gave up a lot of points on Sunday. At the end of stage 2, he was battling inside the top 10 for stage points, got bumped by Ty Gibbs, making a bad block off turn 4, coming to the checkers, gave up points there. And then obviously the last lap of the race, he makes that bold move down on the inside of the racetrack and goes below the yellow line and gets himself, gave up 30 some odd points on the day by doing that move. So that's going to be tough for the standings. But when it all came down to it, Ryan Blaney would pick up his second win of the season in a dominant, probably one of the more dominating plate performances we've seen in a long time. Blaney wins it. Christopher Bell, again, comes from the back of the pack to finish in the second spot. That's, 3 or 4 runner-up finishes in the last couple of weeks for him. Carson Hocevar would have to settle for third, but a good run for the driver who's trying to stay in the points chase here, which he's comfortably inside the top 10. And Ty Gibbs was fourth, and Eric Jones. Wow. Eric Jones, a much-needed good run for the 43, another top 5. That's going to help his chase chances, which, again, we're going to check in on the points here in just a moment. Shane Van Gisbergen, another driver who needed a good day. How about a 6th-place finish for him? That's going to keep him in the chase running for now. Austin Dillon, a good run in 7th. Tyler Reddick came home 8th. 9th was Joey Logano. 10th was Chris Buescher. Some notables here. Ross Chastain, 11th. Your point leader, Denny Hamlin, 12th. Chase Elliott, the winner of the race last year, 13th. We didn't really hear much from Chase during the day. Led a couple of laps at one point, but that is about it. Let's see. Some other notables here. William Byron struggled to his 16th place finish. Daniel Suarez, a driver who's won here and finished well here in the spring, 21st, not the day he needed at all. Ryan Preece, 24th, not a good day for RFK in that regard. Brad Kozlowski, who I picked in 36 for 36, he would finish 26th, so not a good pick on my behalf there. Connor Zilic didn't crash this week, but still finished 28th. Just a nightmare season for him. And then, of course, Bubba Wallace, 29th after the passing below the yellow line penalty. Let's see. Austin Hill, 31st. Kyle Larson, 34th. I forgot to mention, I know it was kind of a scattered recap of the race, but Larson would bring out the last 2 cautions. He would spin through the front stretch grass, and then while trying to make his way back up through the field, he would clear himself off the nose of Denny Hamlin and trigger the biggest wreck of the day that also took out Chase Briscoe. So Larson 34th, Briscoe 36th, A.J. Allmendinger 37th, and finishing last with a mechanical issue was B.J. McLeod. So there you go. That's the weekend that was from Atlanta. Let's see, a couple more races to go. Next week we go to North Wilkesboro for some short track action. First points-paying race in North Wilkesboro since 1996. So let's take a look at the point standings. We'll start with the NASCAR Truck Series here. See, everybody shakes up as they will start their chase after race number 18. There are 14 races in, and Lane Riggs has the point lead by 44 over Caden Honeycutt. Chandler Smith, 3rd in points. Christian Eckes, 4th in points. Gio Ruggiero, 5th. And it's the top 10 in the trucks. Tom Majeski, 6th. 7th for Ben Rhodes. Daniel Hemrick is 8th. With the win, Grant Enfinger moves into the top 10. He's up to the 9th spot, and that puts Tyler Ankrum now on the bubble. He's up 17 points on Stuart Friesen, who is 11th, tied with Jake Garcia. So Garcia also 17 points back. Brendan Queen is 13th. He is, 22 points back. Andres Perez a little bit further back in 14th, and 15th is Justin Haley. The Rams just really have not gotten up to speed so far this year. Miraculously, Corey Heim, 17th in points. We had that big debate a few weeks ago about whether he should be eligible. Well, he's fallen to 17th in points. He'll be in the field at North Wilkesboro. Could probably propel himself back up towards the top 10 with a good run this week. But I think it's all going to come out in the wash anyway. But, the biggest mover this week, Grant Enfinger. Biggest loser this week was Jake Garcia for the trucks. So that's how they shape up with 4 races to go. They'll be in Wilkesboro this weekend. The O'Reilly Series after Atlanta. Take a look here. They are off this weekend. But they have just 3 races to go. They have 21 races in the books. After race 24, we will see their chase, being with the top 12 drivers. And right now, Justin Allgaier with that massive 240-point lead over Jesse Love. Sheldon Creed is third in the point standings. Corey Day down one spot to fourth. Fifth is Carson Kvapil, who went up 2 spots. Brandon Jones is sixth. Austin Hill with a rough day at Atlanta, surprisingly, down 2 spots to seventh in the points. And Sammy Smith, eighth. Parker Retzloff hanging in there. He's ninth in the points. I think he's going to make it. Sam Mayer, 10th. Brent Cruz up 1 spot to 11th. And on the bubble right now is Taylor Gray, who is up by 17 points on Raja Caruth. And a little bit further back is William Swalch, 14th, 15th for Ryan Sieg, then Anthony Alfredo, Brendan Poole, Dean Thompson, Jeremy Clements, and Harrison Burton, your top 20 there. I think the race for the cutoff is going to be between Taylor Gray, Raja Caruth, and William Swalch. I think one of those 3 drivers will make it. The other 2 obviously will not, and I think that's what we're looking at for Xfinity with 3 races to go. So we'll hop over to the Cup Series now and see how things have changed after Atlanta. 24 points now the lead between Denny Hamlin, who continues to lead the points. Tyler Reddick finished second in both stages last week, got a top 10 run, so he closed the gap to 24. Hamlin and Reddick are going to duke it out here over the final 26 races, because after race 26, top 16 in points will battle for the playoff cuts here. And I use playoff and chase interchangeably, just whatever word comes to my brain. Ryan Blaney, though, with the win, he now enters the conversation for the regular season championship. He's only 65 points behind. That's about a race behind, but you would think inevitably at some point Denny Hamlin's going to run into some trouble, at least one bad race in the next 6. And if Blaney can just be solid, he could be in contention come Daytona, where we're going to end the regular season, which he's the defending winner of the Coke 400, and defending winner at Atlanta, which just happened. So I think Blaney's in a good spot here and pretty good at short tracks. So we might have to watch the 12 car here. Ty Gibbs still 4th in the standings. Chase Elliott 5th. Despite another bad day, Kyle Larson is still 6th in the standings. I feel like he could be battling for the regular season championship if he did not throw so many races away. Chris Buescher 7th. Carson Osevar with another good run. He's up 1 spot to 8th. Also moving up 1 spot, Christopher Bell to 9th. Chase Briscoe got caught up in the Kyle Larson crash, is 10th, down 2 spots. Daniel Suarez remains 11th. William Byron remains 12th. Bubba Wallace still 13th, but gave up a lot of points this weekend. Probably could have put himself up past William Byron in the points, but unfortunately throwing those points away hurt him, so he's 13th. Austin Cindric, a quiet day in Atlanta, but up 1 spot to 14th, and believe it or not, SVG, despite a 6th-place finish, down 1 spot. He's only 1 point behind Austin Cindric, though, in 15th. And holding on to the final spot in 16th on the bubble is Eric Jones in the 43. He is ahead of Joey Logano by just 8 points going into North Wilkesboro, where I feel like Logano might be pretty good. Ryan Preece now 26 points out as he drops 1 spot to 18th. Brad Keselowski is up 1 spot. Ross Chastain up 2 spots. That's because A.J. Allmendinger dropped 3 spots down to 22nd. Ross Chastain, I've been talking about him a lot the last couple of weeks, how I feel like his shot is pretty slim. He's up to 20th in points, 45 points out. So if we're talking Blaney, who's 45 points out of the lead, 65 points out of the lead, could win the regular season championship. Ross is only 45 points out. Could he still make it? That's something we'll follow over the next couple of weeks. But that's your edition of the 16 here this week. And I think we're all up to speed as NASCAR heads to North Wilkesboro with the trucks and the Cup Series this weekend. O'Reilly off until July 25th when we go to Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So let's look at the NASCAR stuff. Let's pop over and finish off this week's episode of the podcast with a look at the fantasy standings from Atlanta. I don't feel like I did too well, you guys. No, I did terribly. Absolutely terribly. But that's how it goes. It's not been my year. Cole Trickle Jr. gets the win this year, this week at Atlanta with a 256. He beat Staffordshire Motorsports, Obbs Trackhouse, who continues to have a great year. 76 Motorsports was 4th. 5th was 8 Ball Racing. 6th was Bob's Ford. Zach's Dodge was 7th. 8th for Big Willie. 9th for Bomber 93. Richie Petty 10th. And yours truly, I was 11th with 106 points. Yikes. Rough. Terrible. Terrible, no good, rotten day for me. So checking now the overall standings, if I can get there. Here we go. Yeah, Obbs Trackhouse still winning. He's got 4,187 points. Second is Bob's Fords with 4,093 points. Third is 8 Ball Racing with 4,077. So those top three make a top four. Cole Trickle with the win. He's got 4,073. So I think those four pretty much in the running for the title as we get on the stretch here. Staffordshire Motorsports 5th, Zach Dodge 6th. I'm still hanging on to 7th, but it's not been a good year for me. 76 Motorsports, Bomber 93, and Richie Petty Jr. rounding out our top 10 in the standings. And this week as we go into North Wilkesboro for short track, we've been using a lot of Toyotas lately. I think we got to look at, maybe Blaney this weekend. Larson's probably going to be pretty good. You could probably, because you probably haven't used him much, you could probably take a chance on Joey Logano. I would say, the Penske guys, I would stay away from Josh Berry. But you could use the Penske guys this week and probably some Hendrick guys and save some of those Gibbs cars for the next couple of weeks. But, hey, if you still have a few uses of Denny Hamlin and Tyler Reddick, take a chance. I feel like they'll be good. Ty Gibbs might be good this week. Maybe Hocevar. Hocevar's a pretty good short track racer, so there's a couple of guys that could help you out in the fantasy standings if that is your bag. So North Wilkesboro coming up Sunday night, 450 laps. I think it's going to be interesting because you're going to have 30-plus cars out there on the track, not a lot of space to maneuver. Lap traffic's going to get in the way. The way this track races, they kind of enter on the bottom, slide up in the middle, dime in the corner. So they're going to be all over the place, and I think it's going to be pretty fun to watch. I don't expect, I expect maybe 10 to 12 lead changes. So maybe not a ton of passing up front, but I think we'll see some good racing and a lot of cat and mouse up near the front. Probably some spins, but no, I don't foresee any big wrecks, but just some spins and maybe some pit strategy, especially late in the race as people try to gain track position. So I think that's what we'll see at Wilkesboro. Trucks will probably be pretty wild, but we will see what happens. We'll talk about it on next week's show. We'll also recap the modified event from New Smyrna. We'll recap it all on next week's show. Thank you guys for listening. Sorry, this one was a little cut up. I had to record it at different times, and then we had the storm that just rolled in. And anyways, hope it came across well, and hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, we'll be back next week with another edition of the show. Thank you to our sponsors, the Splish and Splash Swim Program, Do All On and Tree, Paramount Medical Billing, FNF Racing, and Ken Copley as well. And thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week with another edition. Until then, get out and support your local short tracks, watch the races on TV, and vroom vroom on.